Hey there, everybody. Thursday afternoon. Week's almost done. One more day of school left for the week. Hope you guys are doing well. Hello. Hi, friends. Come on in. Hey, Daisy. Good to see you. All right, let me go ahead and flip the camera around and I will introduce myself. Hello, everyone. Hi, April Dawn 1077. Nice to have you. Are you April? Do you go by April? My name is Lynna Sutherland. I'm a homeschool mom to 7. My 5 oldest are school aged, and the other 2 are 3 and 18 months, 19 months. Hi, April. Welcome. Glad to have you. I blog over at Homeschooling Without Training Wheels, hswotrainingwheels.com. And today I am here to talk about what I wish somebody had told me before I started homeschooling. Now, if you are not aware of it, there's an awesome Periscope group on Facebook called Homeschool Scopes. You can either go to homeschoolscopes.tv and it will automatically redirect you to the Homeschool Scopes Periscope group, or you can just go on Facebook and search for Homeschool Scopes. But either way, it's a wonderful, lovely, encouraging group. I'm also a member of Brave Scopes. It used to be called Brave Scopes. It's now called Brave Schoolers, Brave Writers, Brave Schoolers group. Thank you, Daisy. Homeschoolscopes.tv. That's it. So the reason I mention that is because what I am here to talk about today is our challenge of the week. Our fearless leader, Melanie Wilson, who periscopes at Psycho with 6, gives us a challenge every week that we can scope on if we want to. And the one this week was fantastic. It was, what do you wish somebody had told you before you started homeschooling? So there have been so many great scopes, and some of the things that I was thinking about saying have already been mentioned in one form or another, but that's okay, because if the question is, what do I wish somebody had told me, then I'm just going to share what I wish someone had told me. And if it's an overlap, well, then you'll just know it was a particularly relevant one to multiple people. So I've got 3 things that I wish somebody had told me before I started homeschooling. So the first one that I wish somebody had told me is not to try to forecast too far in advance in making your homeschool plans. And, I have even gotten to the point now where I plan for maybe a week in advance, just because life happens and all that. But back when I started homeschooling, not only did I not know that, it was probably best to plan for a short time in terms of the school year, but I was really laying on myself this burden to try to plan for almost like all of homeschooling life. I remember at a certain point, I don't even remember what the issue was that was under question, but somebody said to me, and, well-meaning, said to me, be careful, because I'm not sure if that's sustainable with a large family. And we already had 3 or 4 little ones and knew that we probably wanted some more. And so I somehow got in my head this idea that I shouldn't do anything unless it was going to be sustainable, or I shouldn't do anything unless that could be the plan forever and ever and ever. And oh my, that is a huge amount of pressure to put on yourself, because first of all, large family is not like one box, right? I mean, every large family, and who knows what defines large family, but anyway, every family is different. Just because you have the same number of kids as someone else doesn't mean that you're going to run your family the same way, or that the same things that work logistically for you are going to work for that person. So I had all of this pressure on myself, and I in a way it was probably helpful, because I probably didn't start into maybe a lot of the intensive, I'm going to do 7 subjects with my preschooler kind of schooling. But, I kind of perpetually had this doubt and this dilemma of I don't know, should I choose this math curriculum? Is this sustainable with a large family? I don't want to start with something that I won't be able to continue later on, because wouldn't that be awful if I had to change curriculum? So that's number 2. I wish somebody had told me that you're going to change curriculum. You just are. And, this reminds me of when I started cloth diapering. I had a friend who had started cloth diapering, and, she had done all this research and she'd picked these things that worked for her, but she said, I probably had to spend $100 or $200 on things that didn't work for us before I found what really worked for us. And in my arrogance, I thought, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to make that mistake. I'm going to do better research ahead of time. And I'm going to watch reviews and read reviews. And I'm going to, I'm going to really do my homework so that I won't have to, make changes later on and, waste money on things that I don't use. Well, here's the thing that I failed to understand, both about cloth diapers and about curriculum. It's not like clothing, which you can try on in the dressing room at the store, and with clothing, you can even take the undergarments and the shoes that you need to go with the outfit, and you can pretty closely have the experience with the clothing in the dressing room. Ain't so with cloth diapers or with curriculum. Now, the longer you've been in this field and the more you've done it with either one, the more you're going to be able to say ahead of time, that's not our kind of thing. That's more like what we would go for. But still, you're really not going to know until you've got it on the ground running. Hey, Melissa, come on in, girl. So glad to see you. You're not really going to know until you're using it. And so, yes, it's lovely to do research ahead of time. And it does feel really great when you find something and, get it for a deal and it's just what you need and you don't have to buy a second, try at something. That feels really great. But don't beat yourself up too much when you buy something and you find that it doesn't work and the money is wasted. My husband is an economics major and he likes to say sunk cost, right? So if you, for example, purchase a whole bunch of inventory of something that isn't selling, it's taking up space on your shelf and it's actually costing you money to keep that there. If you feel guilty, like, well, we should try to sell it because we bought it, we should try to sell this inventory, it's sunk cost. It's not selling. It was an oops. Just get rid of it, make space on your shelf for inventory that will sell. And so I like to think of that in terms of curriculum too. Like, you bought it, it doesn't work, don't waste energy on it, don't waste guilt on it, don't waste brain power on it, just oops. There's probably somebody else who would love to have it, so sell it on eBay or pass it on to a friend, and then go with what works for you, and just count that as part of the cost of homeschooling. That's part of how it works, that you're finding what works for your family, and you really can't know that unless you get it and you give it a try. Now, some curriculum, actually have like a money-back guarantee where you can try it for even a long period of time and then send it back, and that's awesome. And you can ask Melissa all about that because she uses Sunlight, and they have that kind of a guarantee, but not everything does, and, there just is going to be cost invested in trying things out and finding out they don't work. That's okay. That's part of the learning curve. And then the last thing that I want to say is that there's a learning curve. And there's supposed to be a learning curve, and it's going to be that way for your whole entire life as a mom. Yeah, if you're not already following Melissa at Soaring Arrows Homeschool, follow her because she gives you all the scoop on Sunlight and good stuff like that. So, I think that I felt like when I became a parent, I would never have said, oh, like, I'm perfect now, I'm all done growing, I've reached, full, perfection or something. I would never have said that. But I think maybe I thought in my mind that, there would kind of be this personal growth that would be happening over on the side, but that in my interactions with my children, I would pretty much be the all-knowing, all-wise one, and that I would just be imparting all that wisdom and knowing to them, and that, privately, when they weren't looking, then I would be, growing and learning things and continuing to, improve as a human being. Well, it doesn't happen that way at all, especially not if you're a homeschool mom, because your kids are there for all of it, and that's not a mistake. What you do with your children and what you learn from messing up with them right in front of them, needing to apologize to them, is not, it doesn't just happen to be a part of the learning process, it's supposed to be a part of the learning process. I used to think of it like, have you ever had several things you're supposed to saute in a certain order? So maybe you're browning the ground beef, and then when it's almost browned, you're supposed to toss the onions in and saute those. And, so you get to the point where the ground beef is almost browned and you realize, I forgot to chop the onions. And so you quickly panic and you go, well, if I really fast hurry up and chop these onions, then I can be back on track where I was supposed to be. Everything will be fine. No one will realize that I really didn't, have it all like I was supposed to in order. I can catch up. We'll be fine. And, I started feeling like that as a parent. Like I would say, I can't believe I made it to adulthood and I didn't get this, or I didn't understand that, or I've been interacting in relationships this way. Quick, I've got to quick chop those onions, and then I'll be on board and I'll know what I need to know and I'll have caught up and I'll be fine. And then 6 days later, I would have another experience like that. And after a while, you realize, This isn't something that everybody reaches adulthood with, and I somehow missed the boat on that one thing. This is adulthood. Adulthood is continually learning, continually growing, continually finding out what it is you didn't understand. And I've got to say, if I look back over the decade or so of parenting, I mean, I've only been doing this for 11-ish years, but still, if I think about all the things I learned, I'm actually really thankful that they were not all dropped in my lap in the first 6 months of parenting, right? I mean, I could not have handled that. I would have been crushed. So thankfully, God is merciful. He gives me one, maybe two things at a time where I say, oh, that's a little out of whack. I need to work on that. I need to think about that. And I do that for a while. And, there's a ton more, but I'm not aware of them. I'm just aware of, something that I need to work on. And I do that one thing. Daisy says there's an expectation from society that when we're, done with high school or with college or something, that we're somehow, all rounded off. I think they used to call it finishing school, right, Daisy? You would go off to finishing school to kind of get your final polish, and then ta-da, you were debuted into society, you're all done, you're ready to be a grown-up, you have all the skills that you need to have. And I mean, that may have been true in terms of, I now know how to properly walk and hold my umbrella and all those things, but certainly nobody in the history of time ever reached 18 or even, 58 with every skill that they needed. We can't learn things as an adult if we need to know everything before then. Right. And, one thing that's important to me, which is just one of those things that I had to kind of absorb along the way because I didn't get ahead of time, is that I used to feel, like, oh no, if my kids see that I didn't get this or that I have to apologize for these things, it's going to diminish my, I don't know, authority, or, they're not really going to put much stock in my guidance of them if they see that I don't have this all figured out. But, I'm constantly telling them, it's okay that you don't know everything. It's okay that you're still learning. This is part of the process. And so me being that way, vulnerably right in front of them, that's actually the best way that it could be. That's a good thing, right? I'm showing them I'm still learning. You're still learning. This is how we love and encourage and support each other as we're all still learning. We all understand that we all have struggles, and some of our struggles we're going to have forever and ever. I mean, there are things about my personality, their personality that, they may grow in that area, but they probably are always going to have this or that, quirk or struggle or whatever it is. That's not a mistake. That's not a dysfunction. That's, part of the learning process, especially learning how to live with and love other people. So, those are the three things that I wish somebody had told me before I started homeschooling, and I have to add, somebody probably did. Somebody probably did tell me all of those things at some point as I was growing up or before I started homeschooling. But you know what it is? You just can't know it until you know it. And, I've had many experiences where I've tried to share something with somebody and I realized they just thought maybe I was lazy or maybe I wasn't serious about, being disciplined or something. And then later on, Bible study class of 80 and 90-year-olds who say they are still learning. Well, good. That's awesome. I love that. Saying to my kids, I'm going to need everybody's help. Amen. We all need each other's help every day. Some days we're strong enough to admit it, right? So, yeah. We can share wisdom with each other. Sometimes we get it. Sometimes we don't. But even if we don't get it, sometimes it's still in there. It's just kind of like a seed brewing in the background, waiting for, I know that's not the right analogy. Seeds don't brew, but you know what I mean. It's there. It's been planted. It might, bear fruit later on when the circumstances of life are such that it makes sense. So, all right, thank you all for joining me. And if you are interested in hearing other people's thoughts about what they wish someone had told them before they started homeschooling, go to homeschoolscopes.tv or just search for Homeschool Scopes on Facebook. And there's a graphic there where everybody's sharing what they wish somebody had told them before they started homeschooling. Thank you, Daisy. Thank you guys for joining me today.